Hey, my name's Marissa. I'm 30 years old and I have a 7-year-old son named Jason. The last few months have been the most trying for us because of what I found out about my now ex-husband, Damien. Before I get into the whole thing, let me just tell you a little about Damien and me. We met when we were in high school. Damien was the popular jock and I was an outcast. Now, one thing about my high school experience was that I was an outcast only because I had a bully. Her name was Nikki and she bullied me a lot. When I say bullied, I'm not talking about name calling or embarrassing me in public. What I mean is that she actively sought to make my life a living nightmare. She'd physically hurt me, made everyone hate me and bully me too, stole my things, got me in trouble with the school on more occasions than I can count on both hands, and so on. I can't even begin to unpack the amount of trauma I have thanks to her. Anyway, Damien and I ended up getting paired to do some project together, and even though I was fully expecting him to bully me into doing his entire share, he surprised me by being nice to me. I guess he saw that there was more to me than what everybody else at school saw, and he began to hang out with me a lot more. Initially, that made Nikki bully me even more because she liked Damien, but he stood up for me and Nikki eventually backed off. Yes, I know this sounds like some movie plot, but it was my reality and I would give anything to have not lived it. Damien and I started dating after we graduated high school, and we chose to attend colleges in our state. Nikki followed Damien to his college and tried her best to get him to be with her, but Damien made it very clear that he did not like her, especially after he found out how traumatized I was because of her. Nikki transferred to another college after that, and that was pretty much the end of that. I still had a lot to work out, and Damien was my biggest support. He helped me rebuild my self-esteem, and I was sure that I was going to marry him one day. After we graduated college, we moved in together, and only a year later I got pregnant. We decided that we should get married, and we had a small, intimate wedding ceremony with only our closest friends and family. By that point, though, Damien's family had become mine and mine his. It was the second happiest day of my life, second only to the birth of my son, Jason. It was hard for Damien and I to juggle work and raise Jason, but we made it work. Damien began to work with his stepfather, so he had a lot more flexibility with his timings. Even so, we divided our responsibilities equally between us. Over the next 6 to 7 years, I began to rapidly climb the corporate ladder. I quickly began earning a little more than Damien, and we were living very comfortably. I was beyond happy with my success, and I didn't think there was anything more that I could do. That was until one day my boss had me and another co-worker stay back to tell us that we were being considered for a promotion, but only one of us would get it. Unfortunately, to get that promotion, we'd need to prove all of our abilities, including meeting with clients from all over the country and negotiating deals accordingly. I was worried about how that would affect Damien and Jason, and when I walked home that day, Damien immediately knew that something was wrong. "You look tired, darling. Tough day at work?" You have no idea. Where's Jason?" "Don't worry, I bathed and fed him and it was getting late, so I put him to bed." "Thanks a lot, sweetie. I feel bad that I didn't get to spend much time with him today." "Hey, you're working to provide a better future for him. I'm sure he'll understand that." "Yeah, well, I doubt that." "What do you mean? What's going on?" "My boss told me today that I'm up for a huge promotion." "What? That's amazing. I'm so proud of you." "Hold on, darling, I'm not done. But to get that promotion, I'll have to take up more responsibilities, one of which is traveling to meet with our clients." "Oh, yeah. I told him that I'd need a day or two to decide because I didn't want to decide without asking you." "You should definitely take it." Wow, that was enthusiastic. Oh, come on, sweetie, don't take it the wrong way. I only said it that way because I know how hard you've been working. This is just a small hurdle for you to pass. This would be a huge boost to your self-esteem, and you know it. Yeah, but what about Jason? I won't be able to spend much time with him, and you'll have to be a solo parent for a long while. Gee, I wonder if I'll be able to parent my son for a week or two, especially since I've never done it before. Don't be sarcastic. I'm being serious. Sweetie, we'll be fine. Like I said, Jason will be happy just to spend even 10 minutes with you. And even if he isn't right now, he'll be very thankful for your hard work when he'll be one of the few kids who'll be able to get through college without a debt on his head. You're right. The new position would come with a lot more benefits, and I would hate to lose it. It's settled then. You're going to work really hard to get this promotion, and then we're all going to celebrate. You're sure you'll be okay with this? It's going to be hard to get used to a new routine, especially since we've been following our current one since Jason was born. Don't overthink this. We're a team and we'll get through this. Now, why don't you take a shower while I reheat your dinner? All right. In hindsight, I should have been alarmed about how quickly Damien told me to accept the challenge for my promotion. Usually, whenever we had big decisions to make, we'd sit and talk about it for hours, but Damien had not even given it any proper thought before deciding that it was okay. Anyway, at that time, I was glad that Damien was so understanding and supportive of my dreams. I began to travel a lot after that. I'd usually be gone at least 2 weeks in the month, not consecutively, but alternatively. When I was home for the week, I made sure to spend as much time as I could with Jason, especially because I began to notice that he was behaving oddly. Jason was a very lively kid, and after I started traveling, he became a lot more quiet. He didn't smile as much as he used to, and it crushed me. I couldn't help but feel like I was the reason for it. I remember talking to Damien about this, and he'd always comfort me and tell me that Jason was just adjusting to the new changes. Thinking about it now that I know the truth, it's making my blood boil because Damien knew the actual reason for Jason's change in mood, and he just let me take the fall for it, while also not helping Jason out in any way. One week, it so happened that I had to travel again. This was a rather last-minute trip, so I barely had any time to inform Jason. Right before I left, though, I called Jason out of his room to tell him about my trip. Jason, sweetie, come here. Yes, Mom. I'll be leaving for a week. I have a business trip, and even though I really don't want to go, I have to. You'll be staying with Dad, but I'll make sure that I call you every day, okay? Do you have to go, Mom? Can't you stay? Like I said, sweetie, I really don't want to go, but I have to. If it was up to me, I'd spend all my time with you. Then can I at least stay with Grandma? Grandma is also not at home. What's wrong, sweetie? Why do you want to stay with Grandma? Dad is here and you love spending time with him. He promised me that he'll spoil you. Mom. Oh, sweetie, what's wrong? Don't cry. I promise you that I'll be back before you know it. Mom, please don't leave me alone here. Take me with you. I promise I'll be a good boy, please. Whoa, what do you mean you want to come with me, sweetie? I can't take you with me. Why do you not want to stay here? This is your home, darling. And you won't be alone. You have Dad. Yes, but she makes me sleep in the basement at night, and it's so scary. I've been doing my best to be a good boy, but I can't anymore. Sweetie, what are you talking about? Dad made me promise him that I wouldn't say anything, but I can't. She's horrible, Mom. I can't sleep in that basement anymore. Who is she, darling? Do you know her name? No. I just know that she comes here every time you go out for a long time. She doesn't feed me your food, and she forces me to sleep in the basement. I have like a million nightmares, and I can't do it, Mom. Okay, sweetie, calm down. Could you answer just one more question for me? How long has this lady been coming over? Since May, after your birthday. Dad always gives me lots of ice cream after she leaves, but it's still so scary, Mom. You're a very brave boy, sweetie. I'm so sorry that you had to go through this, and I promise that if I knew this was happening, I would never have let it continue. Are you going to take me with you, Mom? Oh, sweetie, I can't. But I'll be back in a few hours. Don't tell Dad anything, okay? I'm going to protect you, and I'll make sure that you're safe. Promise me that you'll come back soon, Mom. Promise. Now, just pretend like we didn't have this conversation, okay? Yes. My head was swimming with questions and my heart was racing. I had no reason to doubt my son. Jason was only 7, and with the way I've raised him, he's never lied to me about anything so serious. Even if he was lying, I'd be able to tell. But the look of horror in his eyes told me that he was telling the truth. I had no idea who this woman was that Damien was bringing home. Why in the world was there even another woman at home? And why was Damien not saying anything to her when she was locking our son up in the basement? I got into my car and I pulled out of the driveway. I drove for 10 minutes to absolutely nowhere in particular, before calling my boss and telling her that I had a family emergency so I couldn't make the trip. I waited for another 20 minutes before driving back home, and when I got back home, I saw that there was another car in our driveway. I quietly entered the house, and the first thing I did was go down to the basement. It was locked. I had a spare key to the basement on me at all times, so I unlocked it, and Jason was sitting on the air mattress with tears running down his face. It broke my heart to see him so scared. When he saw me, he nearly screamed with joy, but I told him to keep quiet. I dried his tears and asked him if he was hurt. When he told me he was all right, I told him to wait for me in the car because I had something to take care of. He nodded and left. I set my phone on audio recording and walked upstairs to Damien's in my bedroom. I heard creaking and I wanted to throw up in my mouth, both from the thought of what was going on in there and from the anxiety of who was behind that door. I opened the door, and before I could even say anything, I saw who Damien was with, and my heart shattered. There was my husband, in bed with my high school bully, Nikki. I must have gasped out loud because very quickly Damien and Nikki rushed to cover themselves up. "Marissa, what are you doing here?" I forgot to take my phone and came back home to get it. What is going on here? Nothing. Don't even begin to lie to me. Why is Nikki in our house? And more importantly, why are you in bed with her? Are you upset, Marissa? I mean, I told you that Damon would get bored of you, and I'd be the one he'd come to in the end. I'm not talking to you, Nikki. Damien, answer me. What is going on? How long have you been cheating on me? It hasn't been that long. Why are you so afraid to tell her the truth, Damien? Be honest. We've been seeing each other for over a year now, but I've only been coming over to your place for the last 2 months. It's a shame you aren't traveling that much either, or I would have been over a lot more often. You've been cheating on me for over a year now, Damien? Why? What did I ever do to make you cheat on me? I don't know. I was feeling alone, and I guess Nikki was there for me. And how did you even meet her again? I was out with my friends for a drink, and she happened to be there too. We got to talking, and I guess things escalated from there. So instead of talking to me, you decided to sleep with someone else. I know I messed up. Messed up? Don't even begin to cover the surface of what you've done. You put our child in danger just so you could sleep with another woman. You're disgusting. Don't make him feel bad. You're the reason this is happening. If you'd only paid more attention to him, your marriage would still be intact. You have no right to say anything, Nikki. Stay out of this. You're just as despicable as you were back in high school. Breaking up a marriage is not something to be proud of. You were the one who endangered my son, and you clearly feel no remorse for it. Please, I didn't endanger your son. He was just locked in the basement where there was no way for him to get hurt. I'm not an idiot. You're right. Neither of you are idiots. You're worse than that. Look, can we just talk about this, Marissa? What's there to talk about? You were cheating on me with the most vile person on earth, and you traumatized our son in the process. Can we just work this out? You're right. I should have talked to you about how I felt instead of finding solace somewhere else. I regret my decision. Oh, wow. Well, regardless of how Damien feels, I do not regret this affair at all. Nikki, please stay out of this for my sake. Marissa, maybe we could go to couples counseling or something. Please don't leave me. You mean the world to me. If I meant the world to you, you wouldn't have cheated on me. I want nothing to do with you. Okay, could you at least keep this whole affair a secret? Please don't tell anyone anything. You're despicable, Damien. Marissa, wait. I was seething with rage. I walked out of the room before I did something I was sure to regret. I got into the car, made sure Jason was buckled in, and drove away. Damien tried to run after us, but that was obviously not efficient for him. Jason was silent the entire time, but I'm sure he knew that something was horribly wrong. The worst part about Damien's affair was not even the fact that he was cheating on me with Nikki, but it was the fact that he let Nikki treat our child so horribly. That was what made me see red. Even though I was very angry, I knew that Jason and I needed a safe space to be in, so I went over to my parents' house. They immediately sensed that something was horribly wrong. My mom kept Jason occupied while my dad and I talked. I told him about everything that happened, and to say he was furious would be the understatement of the century. My mom wasn't any better when she found out either. The two of them had built a lot of connections over the last few decades, and they helped me get in touch with his amazing lawyer, who was known to be scary. I immediately filed for divorce and wanted it with full custody of Jason. When Damien found out about it, he called me several times to try and get me to change my mind, but I refused. I didn't care about what a good dad he was before I found out about his affair, because I saw that if he had something he considered more important, he would abandon Jason in a heartbeat. I was not going to let him have any custody of my son, and I'm lucky that my state favored mothers. While the divorce was under process, one day I got a call from Damien's mother, Jenny. Jenny and I had a great relationship, so I was beyond surprised when I heard what she had to say as soon as I picked up the call. Hello, Jenny. I hope you know that I think you're a disgusting woman for what you did to Damien. Excuse me? You broke up your family because you just had to cheat, and now you're not letting my son have any custody of his child. That's horrible. I never expected you to be like this. Jenny, I don't know what Damien told you, but I can assure you that that's not what happened. Of course you're trying to play dumb. You know, I could very easily make your life a living hell. I know a lot of parents in this district because of work, and I could very easily ruin your reputation. Okay, you need to calm down. Tell me what Damien told you and then listen to my side. I have no reason to hear your side out. You do, because I was not the one that cheated and broke up the family. Damien was. What? Are you seriously trying to come up with a pathetic lie to save your skin? Do you want proof? Because I just sent you a recording of the day that I caught Damien and Nikki. Yes, my high school bully, Nikki, in bed. What? Apparently, Damien felt neglected because I was focusing on work too much. And instead of talking to me, he decided to sleep with the one person that ruined my childhood. Oh my God. Sweetie, I'm so sorry for everything I said. Damien has been staying with us and he looks crushed, and I just assumed that whatever he was saying was the truth, because why wouldn't I? Plus, you know how bad my relationship with Damien's father was, and that's the reason I have such strong feelings about cheating. I had no idea. I didn't say anything because I didn't want anybody else involved in this. It's embarrassing enough for me, and bringing more people into it was not what I was looking for. I fully support you, Marissa. Once again, I'm so sorry for everything I said. I should have heard you out. I just never expected Damien to lie. Why would he even lie? Well, for starters, you hate cheaters with a passion, so you would not have taken the truth well. And secondly, he works for your husband and he's probably scared that the truth would cost him his job there. You're right. Well, I want you to know that just because he's my son, he's not going to get treated any differently. You just let me know if you need help with anything at all. I promise you that I'll keep Jason away from Damien if you need me to babysit too. I'll help you do whatever it takes to get the justice you deserve. Thank you, Jenny. I appreciate that a lot. Keep me updated on everything and I'll do the same with you. You're a strong woman. I'm so sorry that you've had to go through all of this. It's all right. I guess I could just consider this another life lesson that was meant to toughen me up. Take care then. I don't think it was possible for me to get even angrier with Damon, but there I was. How could he possibly lie like that? He knew how much Jenny hated cheaters. Damien's father cheated on Jenny when Damien was only a few months old, and even though Jenny gave him a chance after chance, he continued to do it. He made Jenny give up her career so she could take care of Damien, which only ensured that she had nowhere else to go even if he was messing up. Needless to say, getting out of that relationship was a huge struggle for Jenny, and that was why she could not stand cheaters in any capacity. She always did everything in her power to make sure that her family and friends remained in the right when it came to that. So if that meant hurting someone, she was ready to do that. Damien knew that, and he was ready to jeopardize Jason's and my life over it. Over the next few days, Jenny kept me updated on what was happening at their place since Damien was living with them. Jenny had told her husband about the truth, and he was disgusted with Damien. Apparently, Damien had been slacking off at work for a long time, but his stepdad only kept him on the job because he knew that Damien had to take care of Jason. Finding out that Damien was cheating on me with someone who'd harmed me and hurt Jason in the process made him see red, and he decided to fire Damien. Jenny also kicked Damien out but did not entirely cut him off because she was still his mother at the end of the day. I didn't mind that, but I was glad that Damien was facing even more consequences. What made me even happier was learning that Jenny also made sure that Nikki learned a lesson. Nikki was working as a substitute at another school in the neighboring district, and since Jenny is higher up in the ranks, she managed to pull some strings and expose Nikki's past actions along with her current ones with Damien. Needless to say, she too lost her job. It didn't take long for Damien to call me, and I picked up the phone only because I wanted to know what more he possibly had to say. "What have you done?" "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb right now, Marissa. You told my family about my affair. You know how strongly my mom feels about cheating." "Your mom called me to tell me I was disgusting for breaking the family apart because you told her that I was the one having an affair." I just set the record straight. "What happened to keeping things that happened between us to ourselves? I thought you wanted nothing to do with me, so why did you have to tell my mother the truth?" "You're kidding, right? Your mother teaches at Jason's school, and the last thing I wanted was for word to get out there that I was a horrible person. You couldn't deal with a simple lie. You already took my son away from me and nearly landed me in jail. This was the least you could have done for me. Why do I have to put up with a lie when I put up with yours for more than a year? Do you even know how disgusting and hurtful it was to find out that you were with the one person who who had tormented me growing up? Did you say anything when Nikki locked our son in the basement so you two could sleep together? No, you didn't. Did you do or say anything when Nikki was constantly making fun of me when I caught you two? Because I clearly remember you not saying anything. So why should I have done anything nice for you? I get it. I'm a horrible person. I just expected you to be better. You sound insane. I have no reason to be nice to you. You've ruined all the years I put into healing myself. You ruined Jason's childhood and traumatized him enough. You broke up your family. I understand, but could you please call my mom and tell her that you made the whole thing up? My dad fired me when he found out the truth, and now I have nowhere to go. Please. You should have thought about the consequences of your actions before you did them. Whatever is happening to you right now is what you deserve. Don't beg me for help anymore, or I promise you, I'll make your life worse. You know what? It was a good thing that I cheated on you. Nikki was right. You're disgusting. I don't know what I even saw in you. Glad I helped you figure that out. Stay out of Jason and my life for good. Goodbye. I cannot even begin to describe to you the amount of hurt and anger I felt after that call. I couldn't have ended the call faster. I knew that Damien was a scumbag, but for him to tell me to my face that he had no regret sleeping with Nikki and letting her hurt my son made me want to throw up. I was beyond glad that I had decided to record that phone call. I sent the recording to his mother. Yeah, I know that was petty, but if he had no shame in admitting that he did not regret breaking our family apart, then everyone else also had to hear it. I quickly blocked Damien's number because I didn't want to hear anything more from him. He'd utterly shattered my trust and all the years I spent healing myself. Jenny told me that she and her husband had officially disowned Damien and cut off all contact with him. She was ashamed of the man that Damien had become, and she wanted nothing to do with him. I was glad that Damien was well and truly alone. I didn't care if Jenny went back on her word later on. But for right now, as long as Damien felt alone and hopeless, I felt good. Thankfully, staying with my parents has made Jason a lot happier. He's almost forgotten about everything that happened, but I'm still worried about him. So I've scheduled him for a therapy session just to make sure that he's not suppressing any emotions or memories. This whole experience has made me realize that I too need to get back into therapy. So many old wounds have opened up and new ones have been created. The only reason I'm even a little stable right now is because I know I need to be strong for Jason. My parents have been the most supportive and helpful people, and I can't even begin to thank them for all their help. At least I got that huge promotion at work, so I get to spoil all of us, and seeing my family happy is helping me deal with everything a lot better. Everything seems a little bleak for me right now, but I know that things will get better from here on. As long as I can keep my son safe and happy, I'm sure I could go through things that were 10 times worse. Thank you for listening to my story. Hello, my name's Pauline. I'm a 62-year-old woman. Yes, I know I'm a little too old to be able to write a story for the internet, but I have some nice people who have helped me write this at the retirement facility I'm staying at. That's right. I'm living in a luxurious retirement facility, and today I want to tell you all about how I got here. First, let me give you some background information. I got married when I was 23 years old to the love of my life. We tried for 2 years to have a child, and finally I got pregnant. It was a high-risk pregnancy because of some underlying conditions I had. So my husband and I knew that this would probably be the last child we'd have. I gave birth to my son, Peter, and my world felt complete. Peter was my husband's and my joy. There was nothing that we let him lack. Unfortunately, when Peter was 10 years old, my husband passed away. It was devastating for both of us, but we held on to each other to make it out of the grief. I raised Peter single-handedly after that. It was very hard. My husband and I barely got by when both of us were working. So after his death, taking care of all our bills fell on my shoulders. For the first 2 to 3 years, I struggled a lot. There were days when I'd go hungry so Peter would eat. Yes, I saw some rough days, and thankfully they got better after that. I found a better job with a lot more benefits. I learned how to invest money and made a bunch of smart investments. I managed to save and pay for the entirety of Peter's college as well. I didn't want Peter starting off with any loans on his shoulders, so I made sure to work extra hard for that. By the time Peter graduated and was living on his own, I was living more than comfortably. I continued to stay in my same small house because it was a reminder of the happiest days of my life and of my husband. This is only relevant because you'll understand why Peter never suspected me of having saved so much. Anyway, while in college, Peter met my now daughter-in-law, Lindsay. The two of them met in their first year of college and began dating shortly after. They were inseparable, and I was happy for both of them. They brought out the best of each other, and not to mention the only thing that mattered to me was my son's happiness. I did everything I could to make sure he never lacked anything, so it made me happy to see that even his romantic needs were fulfilled by Lindsay. Peter and Lindsay moved in together after they graduated. They didn't visit me as much, but I made sure to visit them whenever I could. We spent holidays and other occasions like birthdays together, but that's it. This was how it worked for a few years, so imagine my surprise when Lindsay suddenly invited me over to their place for dinner on a random Tuesday. I accepted the invite and went over. Peter and Lindsay seemed a little nervous, but I dismissed it. We had a great dinner, and once we were done with it, I thanked them for it. Thank you for inviting me over to your place for dinner, you two. It was lovely. Of course, Mom. I hope you liked what you had for dinner. I mean, I spent a lot of time cooking it, and I specifically made what Peter told me was your favorite. Whoa, I loved it. It was delicious, I promise. Why do you look so nervous, though? Is something wrong? Well, Mom, we actually had to ask you something. Oh? Of course, go ahead and ask away. So, you know how Lindsay and I have been dating since freshman year in college? Yes. Well, this weekend, Peter proposed to me. Oh my God, that's wonderful. I'm so happy for you two. Congratulations. Thank you, Mom. Yeah, I really didn't think the proposal would happen anytime soon, considering we've been dating for 8 years now. That's Peter for you. He loves to make you wait, but, not to be like this, but what does this have to do with needing to ask me something? Yeah, so about that. Since we've gotten engaged, Lindsay and I have been discussing the kind of wedding we want. And after taking a look at our savings, we've realized that we're going to have to wait a lot longer than we thought to have the wedding of our dreams. So we were wondering if maybe you could help pay for the wedding? Of course, why wouldn't I? My only son is getting married, and you bet that I'm going to make sure he gets the wedding of his dreams. Really? Of course. Why in the world were you two so nervous about this? Did you honestly think I'd turn you down? Well, we asked my parents, and they adamantly told us that they weren't helping, only because they don't have much money to spare right now because they're paying for my sister's college. Oh, I don't have any big bills to pay off right now, so of course I'll help. But you have to promise me that the two of you will make some time to see me more frequently. Of course, Mom. That goes without saying. I was ecstatic for Peter and Pauline. I was so happy that they were finally tying the knot. I mean, it's every mother's dream to see their child get married and then have a stable life. And if I could help make that dream a reality, why would I not? Peter and Lindsay were constantly telling me how grateful they were for my help, and I kept assuring them that there was no need for so much gratitude. I won't mention the exact amount, but I did spend a lot of money on their wedding. They both wanted a big wedding with nearly 150 guests, and I was not going to deny my only son what he wanted for his big day. So I never set a budget with them, and I had no problem with how much I spent. I still don't. After they got married, over the next few years, I continued to help them out financially. When they needed help putting down a down payment for their house, I loaned them the money. When they needed help purchasing new cars, I loaned them the money. When they were generally low on money at the end of the month, I helped them out. Once again, this is relevant, which is the only reason I'm saying this. I'm not a bitter old lady, I promise. I enjoyed being able to help them because I considered it part of my duty as Peter's mother to make his life easier than mine was. Anyway, aside from all the financial help, Peter, Lindsay, and I got a lot closer as a family. We called each other every other day just to check in, and also made it a point to meet once a week or every other week for dinner, and on some occasions, lunch. These dinners or lunches were either hosted at my place or theirs. I considered these meals quality time spent with them, and I always felt great by the end of it. The only reason I didn't feel so good every day was because I continued to work well past the age of 60. Now, I know that's old, but I've been working for so long and I know what being destitute feels like, so I was scared to stop working. But one day I happened to look at my retirement savings and realized I had way more than enough to live on. I decided it was time to retire then. Once I had retired, I decided to invite Peter and Laura to dinner at my place, and I prepared them a feast. The two of them looked surprised to see so much food. Peter asked me if there was something special about the dinner. "So, what's this dinner all about, Mom?" "Well, I have some big news to share with you guys." "Oh, I'm excited. What is it?" "Well, you know how I've been working so hard for so many years. I recently decided to stop." "Stop? You mean you stop working?" "Yes, I'm retiring." Are you sure that's a good idea?" "Of course. I've been working since I was 17, and I think now is the best time to stop. My son is well settled, and I have nothing to worry about." But what about your expenses? How are you going to manage the house without any income?" "I mean, I have my retirement money set aside, so I think that should tide me over." "Are you sure that you've saved enough?" "I'm sure I do. Even if I don't, you two would be able to help me out, right?" "We don't want to sound rude or anything, but Lindsay and I aren't exactly in the position to help you out if you need it." "Why wouldn't you be able to help me out? You two are earning well, and you have an extra bedroom." "Sure, but we have enough to support the both of us, not a third person." "Look, if it comes to it, I'll apply for government aid or something. I don't think this is something you two should be worried about." "You're my mother. Of course I'm worried about you." "I'm over 60, Peter. Did you expect me to keep working my entire life? I don't have it in me to keep working anymore." "Yeah, but maybe you could work part-time. At least that way you're bringing in some income." "I have decided to retire, and that's it. I don't want any more suggestions about what I could do. I love that the two of you are concerned for me, but I know that I've got my future under control from here." "If you say so, Mom." "Good. Now, shall we continue with dinner?" I will admit that I was a little peeved by their questions. I never questioned any of their choices, no matter what it was about, so I didn't understand why they were so intrusive about my decision. I let it go for the duration of the dinner, but after they were gone, I couldn't help but feel upset. I had hoped that they'd be happy for me, but after I revealed the reason for the dinner, the atmosphere got tense and weird. I decided to just let it all go because I figured that I was just tired from cooking for so long. I thought I was probably reading too much between the lines. Over the next few days, I busied myself with some household chores that I had ignored for way too long. I thoroughly cleaned the entire house and got rid of years' worth of junk. I tended the garden and polished all the furniture. I was having a great time, especially because I got to finally do the things I'd been meaning to do for a long time. One day, I was in a particularly good mood, so I thought I'd pay Peter and Lindsay a visit. I hadn't gotten a phone call from them in a few days, and I'd been too busy and tired to call them as well. I knew they wouldn't have a problem with me just dropping by because they told me I could do it whenever I wanted to. I bought a good bottle of wine and made a casserole for our dinner, and when I got to their place, Peter opened the door. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "Oh, I was free and I thought I would surprise you guys with some wine and dinner." "You're not allowed here." "What do you mean?" "Let me spell it out for you. No income, no entry into this house." "Are you serious?" "Yes. Lindsay and I have been talking about this since we last met, and we realized that we didn't want someone who wasn't earning to come into our house." "But I'm your mother. Just because I don't earn money, it doesn't mean that my role as your mother is gone." "Sure, but because you're my mother, we realize that you might use that to mooch off of us." "Mooch? Are you kidding me right now? You do realize that I was the one who paid for everything you've ever wanted. Even the car you drive right now was bought by me. I have no reason to mooch off of you." "See? We were afraid that you were going to use all the things you gave me as a reason to mooch off of us, and we were right." "I'm literally bringing it up to tell you that I never intended on doing that. I don't care about money. You two were the ones that brought up my money. Believe me, I have more than enough money to live happily." "I don't buy that. You probably have enough for a few years, and then you'd come crawling back to us and asking us to give you money. I'm just setting my foot down now so I can stop all of that from happening." "So what? Because I've retired, you're going to cut all contact with me? That's a little crazy, don't you think?" "First of all, I'm not cutting contact with you. I'm simply telling you that you won't be allowed into our house. I don't want you thinking that you can just show up whenever and then one day decide that you never want to leave. We can meet whenever you want at either your house or anywhere else outside. Secondly, nothing about this is crazy. I'm just being careful." "You know what? You're right. It's good that you're being careful. I'm glad that I've raised you to be that way, but clearly I went wrong somewhere because all you seem to see is money and not the fact that your aging mother is trying to spend time that she barely got to spend when you were growing up with you." "Don't be dramatic. I appreciate you wanting to spend time with me, but I just don't want that to happen at my house." "All right then, I'll get going." "Mom, I really hope that there are no hard feelings here." "Sweetie, you're my son. There will never be any hard feelings. This has only opened my eyes and made me realize that I've got some things to think about. Anyway, I don't want to bore you with that. I'll see you around." To say I was heartbroken was an understatement. I couldn't believe that my son and daughter-in-law were capable of treating me so indifferently, all because I wasn't earning money. I couldn't even begin to understand why that mattered to them at all. Was that the reason they kept asking me intrusive questions at my retirement lunch? I vaguely remember driving home after that. I was in so much shock and I felt so sad that I felt numb. I didn't know what more to do or say to convince Peter and Lindsay that I was not there to take their money or live off of them. I think I pretty much wallowed in that sadness for a good day, and then the sadness turned into anger. The more I thought about it, the more I knew that there was no reason for both of them to treat me this way. I decided in my fit of anger that if they truly believed I was trying to mooch off of them, then I'd show them just how much money I had. The first thing I did was get in touch with my friends who I knew would be able to help me put my plan into action. I put my house up for sale, and given that it had been a long time since my husband bought the house, the value of the house appreciated a lot, so I made a killing selling it. Then I did some research and found this beautiful retirement housing facility. I went there to check it out, and let me tell you, I fell in love with it. It was luxurious, and I just knew that I had to spend the rest of my days there. Upon inquiring about the price for it, I was told that it was $1 million, which I had. So I pretty much registered myself there immediately. I still had a good amount of money left, so I decided to get in touch with my lawyer. I had written down a will many years ago, a little while after my husband passed away, because I wanted to be prepared in case I also passed away as suddenly as my husband did. In my original will, I had willed everything to Peter, but I knew that I had changes to make. I was not leaving anything to him, not only because I was very peeved by his treatment of me based on money, but also because I knew that by the end of my life, after everything I've spent, there wouldn't be much to give him. I knew that even if I had some money left over, I was going to donate it. All of this had taken almost 2 weeks. In that time, I did not contact Peter or Lindsay at all. I didn't feel like talking to them, and running around filing paperwork and then moving into the facility was exhausting. Eventually, though, a day after I moved into the facility, Lindsay called me. "Hello, Pauline, how are you?" "I'm good. How are you?" "I'm doing good, too. I just wanted to make sure that things were all right between us." "Of course it is. Why are you asking?" "Well, you didn't call or text us for the last 2 weeks, and we were beginning to worry." "Ah, yes, sorry. I was busy with things." "Busy? What have you been up to?" "I figured it was time for me to leave my house." "What? What do you mean?" "You guys made it pretty clear that you didn't want me around, and you were right. What was I going to do in my house? Might as well move someplace else, so that's what I did." "We didn't mean that we didn't want you to be around us." "Oh, you don't have to sugarcoat it. I understood perfectly what Peter was trying to say. Look, I'm sorry that you felt that way, but that was not what he meant at all. You shouldn't have uprooted your home because of that." "It's okay. I got a good deal on the house, so now my retirement fund got even fatter." "Where did you even move to? Are you in a safe neighborhood?" "Oh, it's the safest neighborhood, if you could even call it that." "What do you mean?" "You know what? I'm way too busy right now to explain this to you. So why don't you and Peter pop over this weekend?" Sure. Just tell me that you're safe, though. We've been worried sick about you." "I promise you that I'm more than safe. I found a lovely place to settle into, and I would love for you two to visit me. You don't have to worry about me at all anyway. I've gotten pretty good at taking care of myself." "Okay, well, that's nice to hear. So this weekend then?" "Yes, just call me before you leave and I'll send you the address. It's only half an hour from your place." "All right then, we'll see you there this weekend. Take care." "You too." It took everything in me to not be curt with Lindsay. The way she didn't seem apologetic at all made me want to be rude to her, but I bit my tongue back and was nice instead. I was also really upset that Peter didn't call me, but I didn't bring that up either. I knew that I didn't have to be mean, because once they saw where I lived now, they'd be shocked. And when they'd find out that they were not getting even a penny from me, my revenge would be complete. The weekend was 2 days away, so I spent that time familiarizing myself with the facility. I also spent a lot of my time relaxing, because it had truly been a long time since I did that. When Saturday rolled around, Lindsay called me to tell me that they were ready to leave. I sent them the address and then turned my phone off, because I didn't want to answer any of their questions when they realized where they'd be driving. If they wanted answers, they'd have to come to me, and they did. When Peter reached the facility, he was led to me. He didn't even greet me properly, because he looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Mom!" "Welcome. How are you guys? I hope you didn't have any trouble finding this place." "What is this place?" "This is a retirement facility. I'm sure you read the signs outside." "Yes, but why did you move here?" "And how? This place looks really expensive." "Well, I figured since neither of you two were keen on meeting me regularly, I'd move into this place." "Oh, come on. I told you not to make a big deal about this. I looked into this, and it costs at least $1 million to get into this facility. How did you have any of that money?" I told you too that I was more than comfortable with my retirement. I made a lot of smart investments over my life and I saved a lot. Not to mention, I got a great deal when I sold the house. When you work 45 years, saving up $1 million is not that hard. You had $1 million and you spent it on this? All to prove a point to us? Don't you think you could have spent that on something better? This is a waste of all your money. What would you rather I spend my money on? You made it clear that I was not allowed into your home because I wasn't earning money. I wanted to spoil both of you, but you rejected that, so I thought I might as well make the best of my retirement years before it's time for me to go. Look, we get that you're upset with us, but you shouldn't have spent all your money on this. Who said that I spent all my money on this? I still have more than enough to tide me over for the rest of my life. What? I told you that I had everything ready for me. When you told me I wasn't allowed into your house that day, I realized that I needed to turn things around. I didn't think I'd be able to host you two at my place without feeling some resentment towards you, and I didn't want to spend my time alone at all times, so this was my best option. Mom, we're so sorry. We didn't mean to make you feel like we were leaving you alone. It's okay, sweetie. Now that I'm done with all the paperwork and lawyer fees, I'm just going to relax here and you two can come over whenever. Lawyer fees? Oh yeah, I had to redo my will because, you know, a big chunk of my savings went into financing my stay at this facility. Oh, so how much exactly is left for me? Left for you, sweetie? I have nothing left to give you. What? What do you mean? Well, I spent a good portion on this place, and the remaining amount is my fun money and my medical expenses. There's nothing left to give you. Are you being serious right now? You blew all your money on yourself and you've left nothing for your son? If I remember correctly, you two were making enough to support yourself, so you clearly didn't want me to help, right? You're psychotic. You got so upset at your son that you cut him out of your will and spent all your money on yourself. I worked hard for this money. I provided Peter with everything he needed, and when I thought he'd be happy that I was done working, he turned around and showed me his true colors. I was nothing but a big fat wallet for the two of you. Spending this money on myself is the first treat I've ever given to myself. But a treat that cost this much? This doesn't even compare to how much I've spent on you, Peter. You know that we're planning on having children soon. You couldn't have put aside something for them? You're making enough to save up, Peter. I'm done helping you out. You were being careful by not letting me into your house, right? So be careful with your money now and you can have children. Oh, you're impossible. Don't expect us to visit you after this. That doesn't bother me. You hurt me enough that day when you refused to let me into your house. You know where the exit is. Bye. Peter stared at me with the angriest look I've ever seen before grabbing Lindsay's hand and leaving with a huff. I was relieved that I didn't have to deal with any more of his tantrums. I felt bad that I was not going to be leaving him with anything, but I knew that it was not going to teach him anything. Besides, I didn't want Peter to feel bad after I was gone. I wanted him to understand why he was wrong for treating me differently just because I was no longer earning any money. Peter refused to talk to me after that day, but Lindsay did not stop blowing up my phone with texts that told me how horrible I was as a person and as a mother for doing this to Peter. I initially explained myself to her again. I told her that while this may seem rude to them, I was nothing but nice to them the entire time. It was beyond rude and hurtful when they turned their backs on me, especially when I was the one who helped them get settled into adulthood. Lindsay only went off on me some more for holding that over their heads. Initially, I did feel bad about that. I never meant to hold anything over their heads. I helped them out because I didn't want Peter to ever struggle. I know firsthand what it's like to struggle and have no one to help you out. So the last thing I wanted was for Peter to go through the same things that I went through. I was only bringing it up because I saw no other way to make my point about how hurtful their actions were. However, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that they were only trying to guilt trip me for spending my money on myself. I don't know if that was their twisted way of dealing with their guilt, or if they genuinely thought I was a bad person, but I couldn't bring myself to care. If they apologized to me, I would be more than happy to resume a happy relationship with them. Even if they did not apologize, I know in my heart that I did nothing wrong against them. I did everything to provide for Peter and never once spent on myself the way that I did on him, which I know is my duty as a mother. But even when I had money and Peter was living on his own, I still spent on him more than I did on myself. There's no reason for me to feel bad about making the last years of my life more comfortable, especially since my own son told me that he did not plan on helping me out. Anyway, I decided to mute Lindsay's chat so she could go on ranting for however long she wanted and I wouldn't have to constantly be reminded of her and Peter. It's been nearly 2 months since I last spoke to Peter or Lindsay, and I can honestly tell you that I'm at peace. I'm enjoying my time at this retirement facility, and I finally picked up some of my old hobbies again. I'm happy and stress-free after so many years, and I'm going to make sure that nothing ruins this for me. Hello, my name is Emma and I'm 49 years old. A few months ago, my marriage of over 20 years came to an end, and it ended horribly. I finally feel good enough to talk about it, and I thought I'd come on here and share my story with whoever is willing to listen. I met my now ex-husband David through a work event when I was around 25. We found each other in the crowd and ended up talking so much that we decided to meet again the next day. We continued to meet each other for meals or movies, and we quickly realized that we had developed deep feelings for each other. We dated for 5 years before we finally got married. Our marriage initially was something straight out of a movie. We were very in love and we were doing great in our careers. We were constantly upgrading houses and living very comfortably. Now, I wanted to have kids when we were finally in a great place financially and career-wise, but David was very much against the idea. I tried my best to convince him to have children or even just a child, but he was very adamant about his opinion. Eventually, after trying for years to convince him, I gave up and decided to just enjoy our life. Nothing much happened after that, but I was content, and that was all that mattered. I noticed a change in our relationship around 3 years ago. By this point, we had been married for around 15 years, and we were comfortable with each other. We weren't as romantic as we were at the start of our relationship, but we were still happy. At least I thought we were. David suddenly began acting distant. I tried my best to get him to talk to me about what he was going through, but David insisted that nothing was bothering him. Around the same time, he told me that his work had told him that he would be required to travel a lot more because he was up for a promotion. He seemed happy about it, so I never questioned it, and instead remained happy for him. David then began to travel a lot more. He was gone for 2 to 3 weeks a month, and although I wasn't happy with how long he was gone, I did my best to keep those thoughts to myself. Instead, I did my best to make sure that we were still spending time together when David was home. I planned dates and activities for us to do, and David seemed really happy with it. I felt like whatever was bothering David had finally vanished, and I was glad about it. Although it was killing me to know what it was, I let it go because I didn't want to bring up something that he'd let go of. This is how it was for the next few years, and we were still happy. When David's 50th birthday was approaching, I was ecstatic. I began planning the celebration for him almost 5 months before his birthday. And David knew just how excited I was for him. And then one day, while we were spending a weekend in, he looked at me sheepishly. "Sweetie, I have some bad news." "No, you can't go traveling again. Your birthday is in 12 days. "I know, but duty calls, you know." "But you promised. You're turning 50, David. I want you to celebrate it with everyone you love around you." "I want that too, darling, but what can I do?" "Is there no one else who can do your job for you? I mean, you've been traveling extensively for so long. I don't think it'll be an issue for your company to find someone else to travel instead of you." "No one else is free. I'm the only one who can travel." "What if you were preoccupied with something else, or if you were sick? What would your company have done?" "Don't upset me, darling." "How can I not be upset? You've been so wrapped up with your work these last 2 years, and I haven't said a word about it. Now, when it's time to celebrate your life, also you're expected to work. How is that fair? I want you to have a break and for you to just enjoy spending time with your family and friends instead of working like crazy." "I'll tell you what. I'll do my best to wrap up the business in 7 days, and I'll be back in time for my birthday celebration. Does that make you feel any better?" "It's not about making me feel better, David. I want you to not focus on your work for a second and just enjoy your life outside of it, you know?" "Come here. I promise when I get back, there will be no work talk. It'll only be us having a good time. Does that sound good?" "Fine. But are you absolutely sure you have to go on this trip?" "Unfortunately, I have to go. But why don't you take this free time to work on my present? I know you're planning something, and I'm sure you'll appreciate me being away." "Oh, yeah, fine then. But you better be back in a week, or so help me, I will be so upset with you." "I wouldn't be able to turn 50 knowing you're upset with me, so don't worry, I'll be back in a week." I was more upset than I let on, but at the same time, I realized that David had a point about working on his present. I had been so caught up planning his birthday that getting him his present almost slipped my mind. I said almost because I purchased his presents, but there was one thing I still had to do. I planned on making a video of David's life, like a tribute or appreciation video of him. I planned to use all the pictures and videos I could find of his and put it all together into a video with his favorite song of all time playing in the background. After David left the next day, I began to work on the video. I did my best to juggle my actual work, planning the party, making the video over the rest of the week. On the 5th day after David left, he texted me to tell me that he'd be coming home late in the afternoon the next day. I was happy that he was coming home earlier, but I was also panicking because I wasn't entirely done with his video. I was running short of a few childhood pictures of him, so I decided to go through his iPad because I knew he had them saved to his cloud. As I was scrolling through the albums, I happened to come across a hidden album that was password protected. I was beyond curious about what he could have that was so private, so I tried the password that I knew he used for all his devices, and it worked. Then I was greeted with tons of pictures of a young woman. There were normal pictures of her doing random things like petting a dog or mixing a drink at a bar. And then there was a video. The video was of her giving birth, and David was standing next to her. He was the one filming and holding her hand. There was nothing explicit. It was only her face. But I immediately knew it was David from his voice and the fact that the woman was yelling out David's name. Even though I didn't want to believe it, I immediately knew that David was cheating on me. Suddenly, I became aware of all his little lies, and I couldn't bear it. I quickly drove over to my best friend, Sarah's home, and when she opened the door and saw me, she panicked. "Hey, oh my God, what happened? Come in. I don't know what to think anymore." "What do you mean?" "Why don't I get you some water so you can calm down, huh?" "I don't want water right now. David is cheating on me." "What? What do I do?" "I want to confront him, but at the same time, I never want to see his disgusting face again." "Hold on. How did you find out that he was cheating?" "You know how I was planning on making a video essay of his life for his birthday?" "Yeah." "I was on his iPad looking for photos of him from when he was a child because he had them on his cloud and I couldn't ask him for his phone, so that was how I planned to get the pictures. Anyway, I found a file that was password protected and he used the same password he used for his phone, like the idiot he is. I found a video of him at a hospital with another woman while she was giving birth." "What? Oh my God. Wait, are you sure it was him? I know this is a dumb question, but I can't even begin to imagine that David was capable of cheating." "I'm sure it was him. The girl kept calling him by name and telling him that she was so lucky that he was by her side. You have no idea how disgusted I was watching that. I didn't expect this from him either. All those business trips he took. Were they just pathetic excuses for him to cheat on me? How much of an idiot was I that I didn't see any of this happening right under my nose? I don't know what to do." "Hey, first of all, you need to calm down. You were not stupid for not seeing this happening under your nose. Why would you look for something when he had never given you a reason to look for it in the first place? We have no idea why he cheated, but what we can do is make him feel sorry for doing that to you." "What are you saying? I should take revenge on him?" "Yeah. You have all the evidence you need. You should expose him on his birthday, no less." "I don't think it would be appropriate to show everyone a video of another woman giving birth." "I doubt that's the only proof of his affair. If he was sloppy enough to lock a folder with the same password as his phone, I'm sure there are tons more evidence in his chats. Besides, what are the chances that this girl knows that he's married?" "You think I should reach out to her?" "Do it if you feel like she doesn't know about you. If she knows about you, then telling her could ruin your chance at revenge." "You're right. I'm going to make David regret ruining our marriage like this." "That's my girl. You can stay here if you want. Tell David that I'm going through something and you're staying here with me as emotional support, or that I'm helping you with his present. Whatever you need to make him not suspect anything." "All right. Thank you so much for having my back like this." "Of course. If I don't have your back like this, am I really your best friend?" I stayed the night with Sarah, who comforted me as much as she could. I somehow managed to fall asleep that night, and the next morning I rushed back home so I could get as much information as I could from David's iPad. I scoured through all the apps on the iPhone and found a few text messages between David and this woman, whose name was Allison. I managed to find her social media and I took screenshots of everything. I sent myself the video as well. Forget a tribute video. I was going to make an expose on David. After I found what I wanted to find, I quickly packed up a few of my things and debated which excuse would work best to tell David. I decided to tell him that I had to complete his birthday present because that worked better with him coming home earlier than I expected. When David came home, I felt my heart drop to my stomach. I wanted to throw up, but I tried my best to keep a neutral face on. I knew that I could not let David find out about what I knew. I had to act my best. I was still in our bedroom when he came back home, so he yelled out for me and I went downstairs to greet him as I would have normally. Emma, I'm home. Welcome home, darling. Oh, the trip was so tiring. And wait, why are your bags packed? Well, I'm still not done working on your birthday present and I need some privacy to work on it. But you asked me to come earlier so we could spend time together. I know, but I need to finish this present. I only have a few days and this is some tedious work. Are you okay? You seem a little off. Are you not happy that I came back a day early? No, I'm completely fine. I'm just panicking about how incomplete my present is. Darling, you know I'll love anything that you give me. You don't have to try so hard. Where are you going anyway, and how long are you going for? I'm going to Allison's. She's going to help me complete it, but don't worry. She'll let me take full credit. I'll be there till your birthday. I hope that's not a problem. No, that's great. Say, since you're going out, is it okay if I invite some of my friends over? Sure. What problem would I have with that? I know, but I just figured I'd ask you first. It's been a while since I met them, so I figured I could have a boys' night, you know. Of course. Go for it. I will be back sometimes, though, because I might need some extra things. I'm just letting you know. Yeah, okay. Do you want to go out and grab some lunch, though? Come on, I'm hungry. And I just got done driving for like 3 hours. Fine. I'm not hungry, but we'll go out. My heart almost jumped out of my chest when David figured that something was wrong with me. But of course, he didn't care enough to follow up on that, and for once, I was grateful about it. We went out to grab some food and my stomach was a mess. I didn't know if it was the smell of the food or because I couldn't even begin to wrap my head around how cool David was behaving when he was playing with my life and our relationship. Eventually, David dropped me off at Sarah's place and I broke down immediately. Sarah comforted me again, and then we got to planning what we would do. We decided to try and find out as much as we could about Allison, and eventually, after going through David's messages with her, we realized that she most definitely did not know that David was a married man. He kept referring to me as his ex-wife when he was telling her how happy he was that they had a child. It was a punch to my gut, but I knew that I had to let Allison know the truth. I reached out to Allison from my Instagram account and let her know everything. She was shocked, and initially she didn't believe me, but she saw that my account still had pictures of David, the most recent one being from a week ago, so she knew that I wasn't lying. I asked her if we could meet up to talk about this, and she agreed immediately. After looking through all the information I could find of her, I knew that she lived in our city, so I was sure she would want to meet up. We decided to meet the next day, and I happened to arrive earlier. I was lost in my head, but I was snapped back by reality when Allison called out my name. Emma! Yeah, that's me. Hi, Allison. Hello. I'm so sorry about this whole thing. Hey, calm down. I'm not upset with you. You were tricked by David. Why don't you order some coffee and then we can get into it? I really don't feel like having coffee right now, but thanks for not being upset with me. I swear if I'd even had a hint that David was a married man, I would never have been with him or had his child. It's okay. You were a victim of David's manipulation just as much as I was. If you don't mind, could you tell me how you and David met? I work at a bar that's about 25 minutes away from here. David started coming in there almost every day around 3 years ago, and we got to talking. What did he tell you about himself? He told me that he worked for a big company and that he was a recent divorcee. I never thought that he was lying. I'm so sorry. In hindsight, I should have considered that he never had social media or that he was very careful about telling anyone about me as a red flag. Why did you not listen? Well, when I met David, I had just gotten out of a toxic relationship, and David was the first man that actually understood me. He made me feel good about myself, and I guess I ignored all the warning signs because I loved him too much. Oh, I get that. David charmed me when I first met him, and I swore that no man would ever understand me the way that he did. There's just one last thing I wanted to ask you. Did you two plan on having a child together? Not really. I got pregnant accidentally, and David convinced me to continue the pregnancy, even though I didn't want to. I mean, right now, regardless of what David has done, I still love my child with all my heart, and I don't regret giving birth to him. Nothing will ever change that, but I will make sure that I get full custody of my child. That's good to hear. I don't want anything bad to happen to that child. I'm upset that David convinced you to continue your pregnancy when he's been telling me for years that he hated children and never wanted to have any. What? He told me that he'd always wanted children and that his ex-wife, or, well, you, hated children, so you refused to have any. Oh, wow. The nerve of that man. Look, I'm throwing him a huge birthday party this weekend because he's turning 50. I was wondering if you would like to come and if I could maybe show the video of your birth as proof along with your text messages. Absolutely. I would love to see his face when he finds out that he's been caught. If you have any more evidence of your relationship, could you please send them to me? I'll make a whole montage for him with just the evidence to make it even worse for him. Of course, I'll do anything I can to help you out. I was so glad that Allison was on board with my plan. I mean, I had other ways to expose him too, but I didn't want there to be any way for David to refute the evidence. Allison sent me screenshots of a lot of their conversations, and some of them were very mean to me because David talked about how ugly I was and how I was so selfish. It hurt me so much. But I knew that I was ultimately going to win against David. When it came time for his birthday, I made my way over to our place and did my best to act like everything was fine. I greeted David and wished him with as much enthusiasm as I could, which technically wasn't a lot. Thankfully, he was too wrapped up with our families to notice my odd behavior. When it finally came time to give David his presents, I decided to go first. I told everyone that I had been working on David's gift for a long time and that it was an appreciation video for him. I then told everyone that I had also invited someone that I was sure David would be happy to see. David looked confused, but when he saw Allison walk into the room with her son in her arms, his eyes went wide. Everyone looked at Allison and then at me and David in confusion. I let the video play and explained everything that happened. I told everyone about how David had manipulated Allison and lied to me for years. How he technically forced Allison to have a child while he repeatedly told me that he hated children and never wanted them. During my entire explanation of events, David had his head in his hands because he was ashamed that his truth had come to light. The first person to react to this whole thing was my dad. He got up and grabbed David by his shirt and asked him why he did this to me. David remained silent and looked away. After that, everyone, David's parents, his siblings, my siblings, together began hounding him with questions, but David kept his mouth shut. When we realized this was going nowhere, we decided to leave. I didn't want to talk to anyone after that because the reality of it all came crashing down on me. I went to stay with Sarah again, and David's family, along with mine, offered me all their support. My head was a mess that day. I have no idea how I got through that night. The next morning, David called. and I reluctantly picked up the phone. Hello, David? How long did you know? Not very long, but finding out now was better than never. How did you plan to raise a child while still being with me? That was a problem I was planning on solving later on. Why did you have to meddle like that? Do you realize how embarrassing that was for me? Oh, really? What about how embarrassed I was? Do you know how humiliating it was to find out that you were cheating on me and had a whole family outside of me? Here we go again. You always have to make everything about yourself, don't you? How is this me making things about myself? You were the one that threw our relationship for another woman. What was it that you wanted? A child? I was open to it, but you were the one that was against the idea of having children. So tell me, what happened? God, if you have to know everything, last thing I wanted was to raise a child with you. What? You're always so focused on yourself, and you rarely give time to me. When? When have I ever done that? I've been the one planning our dates and vacations since the start of our relationship. I'm the one that makes sure we're communicating properly when all you want to do is sweep all our issues under the rug. Don't blame your crappy behavior on me. And you refuse to accept your mistakes. Do you think I want my child growing up to be like you? Wow, you are a work of art, David. I'm glad we never had kids because this makes the separation so much easier and less painful. Whatever, Emma. I'm just glad that I'll be able to raise a child. Oh, hasn't Allison told you yet? Told me what? She's planning on getting full custody of her child, and she doesn't want you in the picture at all. What? I hope you find a way to make peace with what you've done. Are you serious? What did you say to her? I had her wrapped around my pinky finger. What did you do? I didn't do anything. Unlike you, Allison has morals, and she was very unhappy that you lied to her about our relationship status. She doesn't like cheaters, so she doesn't want you to be a part of her or her son's life. Wasn't it enough that you embarrassed me in front of my family and friends? Did you have to go after the only thing that made me happy? David, our relationship was the only thing that made me happy, yet you had no problem destroying it. I see no reason why I shouldn't have destroyed everything that you loved. You're a monster. I'm not a monster at all. Stop projecting. I did everything I could to make sure that we remained happy, yet you cheated on me. This is only a small lesson for you to learn from. I hope you're happy now. Please do not contact me, and if you need to, you can contact me through my lawyer. Bye. I hung up on David before he could say anything more. I couldn't understand how he thought that I was the reason for his new reality. At first, I wondered if I acted too much on my anger, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I didn't even do anything that bad to him. And the more I thought about how I didn't do anything too bad to him, the more I wanted to hurt him some more. I didn't think it was fair that I was stuck with all these feelings of betrayal and hurt while he got away with nothing. So I took it upon myself to email his company and let them know about David's infidelity. I checked with Allison, and apparently every time he spent time with her, he never went to work. That only made me think that he was taking leave off work to be with her, and I knew that he didn't have that many days that were paid leave. He must have been lying to his boss, and I was going to make sure he suffered for that. And I was right. He had apparently been telling his boss that his wife, that is me, had been suffering some health problems, and she needed to regularly take off so he could drive me to and from the hospital. His boss was a kind and compassionate man, which is why he did not ask for proof. I guess David's acting was so good that it never warranted any proof. Anyway, that promptly got David fired. Of course, David tried to contact me about it, but I blocked his number. He contacted my lawyer to tell me that he was going to sue me for defamation, but that was promptly thrown out the window because I had not said anything that was false, nor did I share proof that was not consented to by Allison. Since David lost his job, it became even easier for Allison to get full custody of her child. David barely managed to get visitation rights, and even that was under supervision. Allison told me that she planned to fight against his visitation rights again in a few years, and I was happy for her. As for my divorce with David, thankfully my lawyer was amazing, and he managed to get the divorce process faster than I expected. David tried his best to fight me on everything, but I was not going to let him take the majority of things. After being together for over 20 years, it gets hard to divide things, but I stood up for myself and I made sure I got a good portion of our assets. During the entire divorce process, I got a lot of support from both family and David's. After I exposed him to everyone, David's family disowned him and apologized profusely for David's behavior, of course. I told them that they had nothing to apologize for, but I was grateful for their support. By the end of the divorce, David was jobless and alone, something that made me very happy. After the divorce was finalized, I guess everything finally properly hit me and I spiraled into a deep depression. Thankfully, Sarah and my family were by my side and I managed to get through it. Allison and I don't keep in touch a lot, only because the memory of why we even know each other is a little too painful to bear, but I do know that she's in a much happier place. And her son is doing well. I don't know what's happening with David anymore, but I'm sure he's not doing so well, at least from what little reports his family have given me. It took me a few months to get back on my feet and start feeling like life was worth living again, but here I am. I know now the kind of strength I have, and I know that no matter what happens from here on, I can face anything life throws my way. Thank you for listening to my story. Hello, my name's Jane and I'm 39 years old. The story I'm going to tell you happened a year ago and I'm slowly recovering from the mental effects of the whole ordeal. I thought I'd come on here to vent about it, so here you go. Let me start by telling you a little about myself. I got married at the age of 20. Yes, I was very young, but I had been with my late husband since we were in middle school. I just knew that he was my soulmate and that there was going to be no one else other than him. We grew up with each other, so his family was mine and mine his. I had a perfect life. We had good jobs, our own house, the cutest dog. But like all this good, my perfect life came to a horrible end. I still remember the incident like it was yesterday. I was pacing up and down my living room because my late husband was taking too long to come back from work. Around 3 hours after he was supposed to be home, I got a call telling me that he had been in a horrible car accident. After that, things only got worse. The doctors managed to save him, but he was in a coma. We didn't know if he'd make it out, but I stayed by his side the entire time. I barely made it out of that, especially after we decided to pull the plug on him since he'd been in a coma for over a year with no signs of improvement. Needless to say, I was devastated. The first thing I did was sell the house. It was my biggest reminder of him, and I wanted none of that. I pretty much became a hermit because everyone in my life reminded me of him. It took me over a year to get back in contact with everyone, and even longer for me to start experiencing what life was like again. Eventually, the hurt decreased, and I began meeting up with my friends and family more regularly again. After the 5th anniversary of my husband's passing came, my friends began gently encouraging me to get back into dating again. I refused for a long time because I couldn't imagine myself with another man. My friends were very understanding of everything that I was going through, so they never pushed too hard. However, there was this one day when my friends decided that we should all go out to a club just to relax and have some fun. It had been over 2 weeks since we all got together, so they begged me to come with them to the club. I reluctantly agreed. When we got to the club and after I had a few drinks, I actually began to have a good time. I found myself laughing and having a great time. I was in a great mood, which is why when I was approached by an attractive man, I did not shy away from a conversation with him. He told me his name was Nathan and that he was at the club with some of his colleagues for a business dinner that was a celebration of something. We ended up spending the rest of the night talking and enjoying each other's company, and at the end of the night, we exchanged phone numbers. Nathan and I texted each other throughout the next few days and eventually decided to meet up at a small bistro for lunch to get to know each other better. I was very nervous to meet him, and I didn't know if I was interested in him or if I just liked the attention. Regardless, my friends convinced me to give him a shot. So I met him. Nathan was already sitting at a table when I got there, so we greeted each other and sat down. It was a little awkward until Nathan broke the silence by asking me why I was single. So tell me why you're still single. I mean, you're a beautiful woman. I can't seem to wrap my head around why you're still single. Oh, stop it. But my husband passed away 6 years ago, and I haven't been able to bring myself to see anyone else after that. Finally, my friends got tired of me being so alone, so they dragged me along with them to the club last week. Guess that was lucky for me. Oh, wow. I'm so sorry for your loss. If you don't mind me asking, how did your husband pass away? Well, he got into a car crash. He was in a coma for a long time, and eventually we had to pull him off the life support. That's horrible. Yeah, but I've had a lot of time to process his loss, and I'm in a much better place now. On to you now. Why are you single? You're very handsome, so I have to imagine that there's something wrong with your relationship status. There's nothing wrong about it. I was a married man too, but we ended up getting a divorce last year. Oh, if you don't mind me asking, why did you get divorced? Well, she was my high school sweetheart, and I guess we just grew into different people. It was an amicable divorce, so at least there's that much. Oh, wow. I bet it must have been heartbreaking to leave her. Not really. Like I said, we grew apart. We were looking for different things, and while I still loved her, I wasn't in love with her. We both realized that and decided the best thing to do was separate. Thank God we didn't have any kids. Really? Are you against having children? No, in fact, I really do want to have children. My ex-wife couldn't have children, which is why we didn't have any. What about you? What do you think about children? I've always wanted to have children as well. My ex-husband and I were waiting until we were in a financially stable position to have them, but, well, you know. Well, if our relationship does go well, we could probably have children in the future. I like the idea of that. But for now, why don't you tell me a little more about yourself? How about we eat and get to know each other while doing that? I'm starving. Of course. After that, let's just say that Nathan and I went on a lot more dates than I thought we would. We got to know each other, and I realized I was falling in love with him. Nathan worked on the other side of the city, so he couldn't meet me so frequently, and I had no problem with that. For about 1.5 years, we barely saw each other more than twice a week. But after that, Nathan told me that he had been moved to an office that was closer to where I lived. Since we'd been together for 1.5 years, without any issues, we decided it would be best for us to move in. Along with that, we decided that it was time to introduce each other to our parents. My parents were happy that I was finally moving on, and I was just relieved they liked Nathan. As for Nathan, he only had a mother who he adored. I was very nervous to meet her, but Nathan assured me that she was nice. She invited us to dinner at her place and she greeted us when we got there. Well, sort of. Hello, Mom. Hi, sweetie. How are you? I'm great. This is my girlfriend, Jane. Hello. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Anyway, why don't you come in, son? Why are you ignoring Jane? Do you have a problem with her? No. Why don't you two just come in? We can talk. No, you need to tell me right now if you have a problem with her. Look, I don't have a problem with her, but I just think that you can do so much better than her. Are you serious? I'm sorry, but how can you make that judgment when you don't even know me? Tell me, Jane, do you know what my son has gone through? Mom. No, I need to know. My son has gone through so much, and the last thing he needs is another relationship. I know that Nathan was married before we met, but so was I. You were? Yeah, my ex-husband passed away after a long battle with cancer, and Nathan is the first man that has made me feel good after I lost my ex. So then my son is just some rebound to you? No, God, no. I love him. I get that you're protective of him, but I don't plan to hurt him at all. Yeah, I doubt that. You've done enough. What do you mean? Mom, that's enough. Why? Am I not allowed to speak my mind in my own house? You can, but you don't have to be so rude to Jane. I'm not being rude. I'm only trying to tell her the truth. There's no truth. You're just trying to hurt her and our relationship. This is the last thing I expected from you. Nathan, calm down, darling. No, Mom, if you want to talk to me again, you better apologize to Jane right now. Fine, whatever. I'm sorry, Jane. It's okay. I don't want you to be rude or be truthful to her again. You understand me, Mom? Sure. Let's eat so I can get to know Jane a little more. The rest of dinner was awkward, to say the least. Kayla barely looked my way, and whenever she did, she looked at me with so much disgust that I wanted to shrink into a hole and never come out again. Nathan apologized to me profusely and told me that his mother was still recovering from his divorce from his ex-wife. She took it harder than him, apparently, and while I didn't completely understand it, I chalked it up to Kayla being overly possessive of Nathan. But for the next year and a half, my relationship with Kayla never got any better. She made sure to let me know that she hated me whenever we met, either with her words or her actions. I tried my best to not let her affect me, not only because I wanted to be respectful of her, but also because I knew that Nathan loved her a lot, and the last thing I wanted to do was hurt her. Anyway, Nathan and I got engaged, and after telling my parents, we decided to tell Kayla. We went over to her house to tell her the good news. I didn't think she'd take it well, and I was right. We wanted to tell you something important, Mom. Yes, what is it? We're getting married. No, you're not. Excuse me? You heard what I said. Why are you saying no? Because I think that Nathan can do so much better than you. Are you serious? This again? Yes, and also because I have evidence of why you should not marry her. What are you even talking about? Last week, I was out with some of my friends and I happened to spot Jane on a date with another man. What? I never went on a date with anyone, I swear. Don't even try to lie. You're only sticking with Nathan because you want his money. I don't care about his money. I would never cheat on him. I love him and I hate cheaters with a passion. That could never be me. Mom, do you have any proof of Kayla with another man? No, but I know what I saw. Are you going to question your mother like this? You've always disliked Jane, so I need to know that what you're saying is true and not out of hatred for her. Do you want me to call my friends so they can tell you what we saw? Hold on. What day last week did you see me? I went to meet my friends on Tuesday, and that was when I saw you. Are you absolutely sure it was on Tuesday? Yes. I may be an old woman, but my memory is great. Sure, but I'm afraid that you must have seen another woman, because on Tuesday, Jane was at home the entire day because she had a migraine. That's a lie. I saw her. She must have lied to you so she could go behind your back. That's impossible, because I was at home the entire day taking care of her. Why are you lying about something so serious? What is your problem? I just want what's best for you. Why can't you see that? So you tried to invent stories of my fiancé cheating on me? Do you know how insane you sound? You can't call me serious when you did. Enough. You are not allowed to come to our wedding until you apologize to me and Jane. It's okay, Nathan. No, we're going to nip this in the bud. She needs to apologize. I will not let her torture you after we get married. Come on, let's go. I was beyond upset at Kayla's reaction. I knew she hated me, but she'd never been that blunt about it either. Nathan was even more upset than me. He went from calling her often to check in on her to never calling her. In the next few months, we cut all contact with Kayla. I felt horrible because I couldn't help but feel that I was the reason that Nathan's relationship with his mother was ruined. To stop myself from spiraling, I focused all my energy on planning our wedding. After 6 months of wedding preparations, I emailed the invitations to all of Nathan's and my family and friends. Kayla must have heard from her family about the wedding date because she showed up at our place the day before the wedding. Nathan was out of the house and it was only me. When I opened the door and saw her, I was surprised at first. And when she just awkwardly stood at the door without saying anything, I let her in. Finally, after another minute of silence, Kayla spoke up. You cannot marry Nathan. Excuse me? You heard what I said. Why should I not marry Nathan? Because I said so. Okay, look, I've been nice to you even though you've done nothing but make my life miserable. What do you have against me that you've done everything in your power to sabotage my relationship with Nathan? I have nothing against you, Jane. I'm just trying to protect you. Protect me? How in the world is accusing me of cheating an act of protection? And don't tell me you have nothing against me when the very first time you met me, you told Nathan that he could do a lot better than me. I was just trying everything in my power to make you go away. The first time I met you, I realized that you didn't know the full truth about Nathan. I mean, he didn't tell you the truth, which is why you didn't know. What are you even talking about? Do you remember how you met Nathan? Obviously, we met at a bar and we hit it off after that. Yes. And what did he tell you about his relationship status at that time? He told me he was a new divorcee. That was a lie. What? Nathan was still married to his then wife at that time. Is this another tactic of yours to sabotage our relationship? Because if it is, I'm going to uninvite you, and once Nathan finds out, he's never going to talk to you again. I'm sick and tired of your nonsense. No, I swear this is not a tactic. I've realized that none of my plans to get you to leave have worked, so the only way for you to leave is to tell you the truth. Here, take a look at this. What is this? These are Nathan's police reports. What? Yeah, his ex-wife found out about his affair with you, and things got really heated between them when she confronted him about it. She threatened to expose him to everyone, and Nathan lost control of his temper and laid his hands on her in a horrific manner. If I'm being truthful, she was hospitalized for a week because he broke her collarbone and practically tore her hair out. Oh my God. See? Nathan is my son, and I'm unfortunately filled with love for him. I did not speak to him for a long time after I found out what he did. Thankfully, his ex-wife didn't press any charges against him in exchange for full custody of their children and their house. Nathan had nowhere else to go, so I took him in. He has children? Yes. How could he do that? To his wife and children? How could he do that to me? He knows how much I hate cheaters. Nathan is a disgusting man, Jane. I'm sorry I tortured you, but I couldn't tell you the truth because Nathan was basically glued to you. He knew that I would try to tell you, so he never let you be alone with me. Not to mention, I was terrified that he would hurt me too, so I'm so sorry, Jane. Oh my God. This must have been so much for you to deal with. I'm sorry that I snapped at you. You were only doing your best to protect me. I'm so sorry. You don't have to apologize. Instead, why don't you help me get back at Nathan? I can't. I know you're his mother, but you shouldn't shelter him. He deserves to deal with the consequences of his actions. You're literally living in fear of his anger, and that's never a good thing. I don't know. Do any of his friends and family know about the truth of his previous relationship? No. He made me promise him that I wouldn't open my mouth. Great. Tomorrow, we'll expose him. He invited his boss, so I'm sure that he'll get fired. It's time for him to face some real consequences, and you can come and stay with me so we can avoid him for a while. All right. You're right. I shouldn't be afraid of my son. Let's do it. I was shaking. I tried my best to remain composed in front of Kayla, but after she left my place, I raced to the washroom so I could throw up. I couldn't believe that Nathan was capable of being such a horrible person. And most of all, I couldn't believe that he had involved me in his horrible actions. I was very much against cheating and even more against abuse of any kind. These were things that Nathan knew very well about me, and he knew this very early on in our relationship. So for him to knowingly involve me in his horrendous actions made me both throw up and want to scream at him. But I knew that I had to be careful with how I handled things, especially since I knew what he was capable of. I made sure to tell Kayla that she needed to call Nathan and apologize to him. She needed to be at the wedding because I didn't count on Nathan not trying to harm her afterwards. I told her to pack all her necessities up and keep them in her car before she got to the wedding. I needed to make sure she was by my side the entire time. Then I told Kayla to tell Nathan that she wanted to apologize to me. I was sure that Nathan would want that to happen only with him present there. I didn't want to give him any reason to think that I knew the truth. Things panned out just like how I had predicted after Kayla apologized. Nathan forgave Kayla, and so did I for his mistake. I truly don't know how I got through the rest of that night, but I do remember being truly afraid that Nathan somehow found out that I knew the truth. When I wasn't afraid, I was seething with anger against him. I cannot even begin to describe to you how happy I was when it finally turned to morning. Nathan and I made our way to the venue where our wedding and reception was supposed to be held. We thankfully parted ways to get ready, and Kayla greeted me discreetly. She handed me a USB with all the proof of Nathan's actions against his ex-wife. I handed it to my maid of honor and told her to hand it over to whoever was manning the projection so they could play it as soon as I reached the altar. Eventually, it came time to walk down the aisle, and my stomach was in knots. The only comfort I had was that I was surrounded by family, so Nathan could not hurt either me or Kayla. When I reached the altar, the proof of Nathan's crime was projected onto the huge screens beside us. All the guests burst out into gasps and murmurs, and Nathan was confused. He took a look at the screen and paled. Before he could say anything, I began to tell the truth of his past to all our guests. I did not spare any details. It turned out Kayla was right about how much her family didn't know. Nathan really threatened her to keep everything under wraps, and she had no choice. With every word that came out of my mouth, I got more confident. In the end, I told Nathan that the wedding would not be happening because I was not going to marry someone who had no problem destroying his family in the worst way possible. I grabbed Kayla's hand, got in her car, and we drove off to a mall. I quickly changed my clothes and called my dad. I could hear how frantic everybody was, but I knew that more than anything, Kayla and I needed a safe spot to be at. My dad had many empty apartments that he usually rented to college kids whenever they needed them. He agreed to let Kayla and I be there until everything calmed down. After everyone left the party, my family came over and talked to me about what had happened. I re-explained everything to them, and they were disgusted with Nathan. They assured Kayla and I that they would be there for whatever we needed. While I was glad for their kindness, I knew that it was only a matter of time before Nathan found us again. I was right. Nathan found us only a day later, and he came banging on the door. I carefully opened the door just a smidge so there would be no way for him to hurt me. "Why did you do that? You know how exactly you've ruined my life." "I only did what I had to do. You lied to me and absolutely demolished my trust. You knew how hard it was for me to get over the death of my ex-husband. You still lied to my face every single day for 3 years. That was to prevent this outcome." "Oh yeah? That's why you bullied your mother into keeping your secret? You knew she was terrified of you, and you used that against her." "Where is she anyway? She needs to get a piece of my mind." "Look, Nathan, your mother is filing a restraining order against you. She did the right thing by informing me about what your true nature is, and you will not hold that against her." "Restraining order? I'm her son. I'm not going to hurt her." "That didn't stop you from threatening her. Stay away from her. You know I have relatives that are cops. Do you want to mess with me?" "This is why I can't tell you anything. You always make a big deal out of nothing." "How is hitting your wife and sending her to the hospital not a big deal? That is something you should have told me instead of spinning your wife into some evil entity who wronged you. You made me your side chick. Do you know how disgusting I feel because of you?" "So? Is it wrong for me to love you? You made me feel things that my ex never did." "That is not a compliment. For a whole year, I was your side chick. You ruined your family, your wife, and your children using me. And you lied to me about everything. Do you not realize how insane you were for doing that? Our entire relationship was a lie. I only got lucky that your mom has a conscience." "My mom is a snitch. She doesn't understand anything that I've been going through. I was a changed man because of you." "Don't give me any of that. This relationship was doomed from the start. I don't want anything to do with you. Leave before I call the police." "Oh no, I'm not leaving until you get me my job and reputation back. You have to tell everyone that you made everything up because you got cold feet and needed an excuse to not get married." "Why in the world would I do that? I don't like to lie about huge things like that, unlike you. You have 2 minutes to leave before I call the cops. Bye, Nathan." I shut the door in Nathan's face and walked away from the door. I was terrified that he would try to lay his hands on me, or at the very least, break the door down. Thankfully, he didn't do either of those things. He left after that because I'm guessing he was scared that I would have called the police on him. After that, though, I made sure that I sheltered Kayla as much as I could, at least until her restraining order was in place. Both of us stayed at my dad's empty apartment that he had lent us for this very reason. In the meantime, Kayla and I managed to hear from various of her family members and my friends about what had happened after I exposed Nathan. Turns out, Nathan's company has a very strong policy against criminal records, whether they existed or almost existed. His boss was not happy to find out about what Nathan had done. To make matters worse, he had apparently told his boss that he needed to take 2 weeks off because his cousin passed away, when in reality, he was dealing with the legal aspects of his divorce. So the company policy, along with Nathan's lies, made sure that Nathan got fired. It's a great thing that Nathan and I rented an apartment. We planned our wedding around the end of our lease because we had planned to purchase a house right after we got married. I'm so glad that we didn't do that before we were supposed to get married. Anyway, I had my brother and my dad accompany me while I went back to my shared apartment with Nathan to collect all my things. Nathan tried his best to get me to change his mind. I'm talking about getting down on his knees and crying while he begged me to forgive him and rethink our relationship. I was honestly disgusted beyond belief when I looked at him. I could not stop thinking about how he made me a part of his plan to ruin his family. I could not stop thinking about how I was a part of the reason that he hit another woman. It took everything in me to not throw everything in the house at him, but I knew that I had to be better than him. I did not give him the satisfaction of knowing that he affected me. I walked out of the apartment after barely looking his way. I heard that Nathan practically drank all his savings away. Even though we still had around 2.5 months on the lease of our shared apartment, he got kicked out after he failed to pay the rent after 1.5 months. He's been couch surfing at his friend's place. Well, whatever friends he's got left. He's been struggling to find a job, and last I heard, he's planning on moving to another state where nobody knows him so he can start afresh. I only hope that he doesn't trick any other woman, but I doubt that he's learned a lesson. I'm just happy that I dodged a bullet. Kayla's restraining order came through and she went back to her place. Thankfully, Nathan didn't try to reach out to her. He even blocked her number. Kayla felt horrible, but I reminded her that she had done the right thing. We've become pretty good friends now, and we've even gotten to the point where we can laugh at the way she used to treat me. Life is getting better now. I still have a huge weight of guilt lying on me, but I'm in therapy and I'm working through it. The only reason I haven't crumbled is because all of Nathan's friends and family abandoned him. He doesn't have a job anymore and he's at his lowest. I'm grateful that he got to face the consequences of his actions. I still have a long road to recovery, but I'm sure I'll come out on the other side happier and more secure with myself. If you've listened to my entire story, thank you so much. I hope only the best for you. Hey, my name is Michelle. I'm 28 years old. In the last few months, I found out what the true colors of my husband were. They weren't very pretty. Let me start by telling you about him. I met my now ex-husband Aaron when I was freshly out of college through a dating app. I was bored and all my friends moved away after they graduated, and I wanted to be in a relationship. Over text, Aaron was great. He made me laugh and he seemed to be very successful, so we met up and he was just as great in person. We ended up going on a lot more dates until we finally made our relationship official. One thing you must know about me is that I owned, and still own, my own house. I know you're thinking that I must have been very young to own a house. I was given that house as an inheritance from my late grandmother. She loved me because I was her only grandkid and she left me the best gift of all. Anyway, another thing you should know is that Aaron is 3 years older than me, so you'd expect him to have a better handle on his life than I did, right? Wrong. When I met him, Aaron was drowning in debt. Since I was in a much better position and knew how to handle my finances, I offered to help him clear his debts. This was after being together for a year. I let him move into my home so he could save on rent and instead pay his debts off. Thankfully, he managed to do it, and he was a great person to live with. Aside from that, I also got to meet his mother, Grace. Now, I knew from the moment I met her that she was not my biggest fan. But I didn't let that affect me because I thought she just needed some time to come around to me. I thought that as time went on and as we spent a lot of time together that she'd like me. I did just that, and I thought Grace was actually beginning to like me, and I was really happy about it. Well, I was wrong. When Aaron and I hit the 3-year mark of our relationship, Aaron proposed to me. I was so happy about it. I couldn't wait to spend the rest of my life with him, and I couldn't wait to tell everybody in my life. Since Grace lived closest to us, Aaron and I decided that she would be the first person we told about our engagement. We invited her to dinner at her favorite restaurant, something we never did, so she knew that we had something to tell her. When she came in, she greeted both Aaron and me warmly. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, Grace. How are you?" "Hello, I'm good. I'm a little anxious about why you've called me out to dinner tonight." "Ah, there's nothing to be worried about." "Yeah, we have some amazing news, but I think we can wait till after the dinner." "Oh, come on. It's killing me. Just tell me already." All right. The good news is that Michelle and I are engaged." "Oh. Yeah, and we're getting married in 6 months." "Wow, congratulations." "What? What happened? Are you upset about something? Is the wedding happening too soon for your liking?" "I don't think Mom cares about it. I don't think she's upset about it either. Let's just have our dinner, shall we?" "No, Grace is clearly upset about something." "Just drop it, Michelle." "Ignore him, Grace. What's bothering you? Why do you seem so upset after we announced our engagement?" "Do you really want to know?" "No, she doesn't." "Yes, I do. Please tell me." "I don't like you, Michelle." "What?" "Yeah, you're not good enough for my son. You're not pretty enough. You don't have a good enough personality, and you're boring. Aaron can do so much better than you, and I don't know why he's settling for you." "Oh, wow. Have you always felt this way about me?" "Yes. The only thing you have going for you is that you're young and you own a house. None of that is important, though, which is why I think Aaron can do so much better." "That's enough, Mom." "Look, sweetie, I get that you're old enough to know what you like, but seriously, this one? I have friends who have daughters your age who look a million times better than her." "I'm still sitting here, and I can hear everything you're saying, you know. No offense, but I think you should hear this. You need to get prettier and get a better personality to marry my son." "Mom, I love her, and she is who I'm choosing to marry. You need to respect it. I'm not asking you to like her, but I am asking you to respect my choice. Do you get it? Or should we end this dinner?" "Fine. It's your life. Do whatever you want. Don't come crying to me when you realize that I was right. Let's continue with this dinner." "You know what? You two can go ahead and have dinner. I'm not in the mood to eat, and I don't want to dampen the mood." I left before either of them could say another word. I couldn't believe that all the years I put in an effort to be liked by Grace were of no use. She hated me, and she was very outright about it. That stung. What made it worse was the realization that Aaron knew, but he purposely hid it from me. He let me get humiliated that way. He knew how happy I was when I thought that Grace was starting to like me, and he just let me believe it. I got home that night, and I just sobbed until I fell asleep. When I woke up, Aaron was still asleep, and I had a job to get to, so the next time we talked was that night. Aaron apologized for Grace's comments, and I confronted him about hiding the truth from me. He apologized and told me that he was just trying to protect my feelings, and I forgave him. In hindsight, that should have been my cue to leave. But I stuck around because I loved him. Anyway, after we got married, Grace and I barely spoke. I knew she didn't like me, so I didn't see why I should have had to be around her. I never stopped Aaron from frequently meeting her because that would have been cruel of me. But I did know that the two of them suddenly got a lot closer after Aaron and I got married. Aaron was constantly talking to Grace, and they would talk for literally hours. Whenever I asked him what they talked about, he would brush me off and change the subject. Aside from that, I also noticed that Aaron was beginning to slack off with his household chores. It was getting exhausting to pick up after him, but whenever I told him to do his share of the chores, he'd get all huffy and tell me that he was tired. Once again, I let it go because I loved him, and he was generally a great husband aside from that. And then came the fateful day. Aaron and I were spending our weekend in when he got a phone call. I didn't see the caller ID when he picked up the call, but Aaron got up to go into the other room and talk to the person. When he came back, he seemed upset. Who was on the call? It was Jenna. Your cousin, Jenna? Yeah. What did she say? Turns out that my aunt's in the hospital in critical condition. What? Why? She was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer and she's currently in the ICU. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. Yeah, I never thought she'd have to suffer in such a horrible manner. I mean, she does not deserve this at all. Oh, darling, I'm so sorry that you're going through all of this, but I'm sure that the doctors are doing their absolute best to make sure she'll live. I know, I didn't speak too much about her, but I really did enjoy her company. Spending my summers at her place while growing up was the only thing I looked forward to every year, even more than Christmas. She must have been an amazing woman, and she will continue to be. I'm sure that she'll pull through. It just feels so impossible. Jenna was hysterical on the phone. She told me that there's very little chance of my aunt surviving. Do you have something that you want to do in mind? Something that will help you feel a little better? I don't know. Nothing's making sense in my head right now. Everything feels so fuzzy and weird. I get that. Being in the unknown about an important situation is a very uneasy feeling. How about you talk to your mother? Oh God, I didn't even think about what my mother must be going through. The two of them were thick as thieves. There was not a single thing these two didn't do together when we lived closer. Oh no. Why don't you invite Grace over and the two of you can figure out what you want to do? I'll take care of everything else. Are you sure that's okay? I know you don't necessarily have the best relationship with my mom. Of course, I'm sure it's okay. I know that I don't have a good relationship with Grace, but I also know that I won't be able to provide you the same kind of comfort that Grace will. I didn't know your aunt well enough to be able to share your grief. Your mom can do that for you. Thank you for being there for me, darling. Of course. Now call Grace. If she needs me to pick her up, I'll do that too. Just because Grace and I didn't have a great relationship, I didn't see why I had to be a monster towards her, so I let her stay with us. I picked her up and helped her settle into our place. I didn't know much about Aaron's aunt, Jane, but I knew that she was very loved by both Grace and Aaron because they both seemed hollow after they heard the news. On the first 2 nights of Grace staying with us, I left Grace and Aaron alone. The two of them kept to themselves and barely spoke when I was around. At night, they'd spend hours talking in Aaron's office. I thought that they were trying to figure out what they wanted to do, and also talking about how they would deal with things if Aunt Jane's health went south. So I let them have their space. The next night, over dinner, I decided to break the silence and ask them if they had made any plans. So, have you guys decided on what you want to do? I think we have, Aaron. Yeah, Mom and I have decided that we should fly out to see my aunt and be with our family. All right, when are we leaving? We? I'm sorry, but you're not coming along. I'm not? But why? Because we want this to be a family thing. I'm part of your family too. I'm your son's wife. Yes, you are family, but this is a bit different, you know. How is it different? You're not very close with the rest of my family, and we just want it to be a very close family kind of thing. Besides, you don't even know my sister that well, and I doubt she'd want a stranger by her side when she's going through something this intense. Oh, all right. Is there anything I can help you guys out with? I'm good, but thank you for offering. Please don't take this the wrong way, darling. You are a part of our family. This is just a very intimate thing. I guess I get it. You don't have to over-explain it. I just want you to know that I'll be here if you need me to. I know that, and thank you so much. So when do you guys leave? We're leaving tomorrow morning. Oh, did you book your tickets already? Yeah, we wanted to get there as soon as possible, so we booked the tickets first thing after I got here. And did you guys not think to at least tell me that before? Don't make a big deal out of this. I'm not. It just feels weird that the two of you made a decision like that without even telling me. Why do we have to tell you anything about what we want to do during our family emergency? I don't think you have to, but it would have been nice. I mean, I've been helping you two out, and since you didn't want me to come, you could have told me before you booked the tickets. Look, we're still in shock about my aunt's sudden decline in health, and I guess it just slipped our minds, okay? We'll make sure to keep you more informed going forward. Our flight is at 11 in the morning, so we'll leave by 8:30, okay? All right, let me know when you get there. Don't forget. I won't. All right, well, let's have dinner. Sure. I'm not going to lie. I was hurt. I mean, I know I shouldn't have felt entitled to their plans, but after being so considerate and after picking up after them for 2 days, which, by the way, was not easy because they loved to be messy, I at least expected them to tell me that they were planning on leaving. But like every time, I let it go. I wished both of them a safe journey the next day, and I reminded Aaron to text me when he reached there. I got a text about 3 hours later telling me that they'd reached, and then after that, I could not get in touch with Aaron or Grace at all. Both of their calls went to voicemail, and my texts were left undelivered. By nighttime, I was very worried, but I decided to sleep because I figured they were probably busy getting along with their family. The next day, I waited until the afternoon to try again, and it was the same thing. I was really freaking out. I took the rest of the day off from work and made my way back home. At home, I found a book of contact numbers in Aaron's desk drawer, so I called Aunt Jane, but her daughter Jenna picked up. Hello? Hi, it's Michelle. Is this Jenna? Yes. Hi, Michelle. How are you? Everything all right? Yes, everything's fine here. What about you? How are you doing after, Oh, that's very sweet of you to ask. Mom had been suffering for too long, so I guess I'm not even that upset that she's gone now. It's a good thing because at least this way Mom's not in pain anymore. Gone? What do you mean? I thought she had only just got diagnosed with cancer. What? No, my mom got diagnosed with cancer 6 months ago and she passed away 3 days ago. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for your loss. It's all right. Like I said, it's a lot better this way. Past few days have been a bit hectic because of the funeral and all, but it's okay. Is there anything I could do to help you out? No, but thank you for the offer. Surprisingly, Aunt Grace didn't come though. Wait, what? Yeah, you'd expect the one person my mom loved the most to be there, but I guess Aunt Grace had other things to do. What are you talking about? Aaron and Grace just left this morning to be there. They told me they had reached. Okay, I think something's going on here because I can promise you that neither of them are here. I would know. This is a small town and everyone knows everyone, so I would have heard from at least someone that the two of them are here. But why would they lie about something so horrible? You know, in the last 3 or 4 years, my mom and Auntie Grace had a bit of a falling out. Mom never told me why, but I'm going to guess that it's related to them lying to you. They had a falling out? Oh yeah, Auntie Grace came over one day when she was in town for their usual tea time, and then they got into a huge argument. I was out at the time, but when I got back home, my mom was calling Auntie Grace a pathetic, manipulative homewrecker. I had no idea what that meant, and my mom was in no mood to talk about it after. I don't think they spoke much to each other after that, except for the holidays. Oh, wow, that is weird. I'm so sorry that I dumped all of this on you. You have enough to deal with. No, it's okay, believe me. This has been bothering me for a while, and I'm only sorry that you're in the middle of this. Maybe you could find out what's going on and keep me in the loop? All right, I'll let you know. If I find something that I don't like, I might need your help. Of course, I'm only one phone call away. Thank you. Take care then. I was shaking. I don't know with what emotion because I was overwhelmed with anger, confusion, betrayal, and a host of other explosive emotions. I couldn't believe that Aaron had lied to me, especially about something as serious as the health of his beloved aunt. I knew I needed to get to the bottom of the lie, so I sat down and racked my brain about how to do it because Aaron had carried his laptop and his phone with him, so I couldn't access either. But then I remembered Aaron's iPad. It had all the information that his laptop and phone had, and he left it at home. I ran to his office and pulled out his iPad. My fingerprint was logged into the iPad, so it was easy for me to unlock it and access his passwords for various things. After going through his messages, I found texts between Grace and Aaron where they talked a lot of smack about me. That dated to just 4 months after Aaron and I got married. Apparently, everything I did or said annoyed him. That was very hurtful to read because for the last 2 years, he had always told me how he was the luckiest man in the world to have found me. He would tell me every day how much he loved me, and he always did the sweetest things for me without me ever having asked him. Was that all just a lie? After that, I looked through his credit card transactions and found tickets to Los Angeles. Now, I don't know about you, but California and Pennsylvania are not close at all. There was something else happening here, and I needed to find out more. So I went through his messages with Grace again and found nothing. I decided to go through his socials and found his chats with one of his online gamer friends. There, he outlined his upcoming trip with his mother, where she was setting him up with her friend's hot daughters, so he could finally date someone attractive. Apparently, this friend didn't know he was married because he seemed excited for Aaron. Finding this out was more devastating than reading the chats between Grace and Aaron. I couldn't believe what I'd found. My entire marriage was a lie. I couldn't function after I found out all of that. I think that was the closest I got to being in a state of catatonia. I don't know how or when, but the rest of the day passed. The next morning, when I woke up, I decided I was not going to wallow in my grief. Instead, I was going to take revenge and teach both of them a lesson for being so disgusting. The very first thing I did was file for a divorce. Next thing I did was find the recording of Aaron telling me that his aunt was in critical condition at the hospital. I had security cameras all over my house because I was a single lady living in a house, so I had them installed in the common areas as well for added protection. I also grabbed the clip of Aaron and Grace telling me that they were flying back home to be with their family. I then took screenshots of Aaron's chats with Grace and his gamer friend. I made a file of it all, and I sent it to Jenna. I called her after and explained what had happened, and she was furious, not only for me, but also that they would use her mother's name to help Aaron cheat. We figured that Grace must have told Auntie Jane that she planned to separate Aaron and me by setting him up with someone else, and that was why the two of them had a falling out. Anyway, Jenna sent the files containing the evidence of Aaron's and Grace's disgusting behavior to the rest of the family, who she was sure was going to disown both of them. I was not satisfied with that much. I went through Aaron's emails and found out that he had told his boss that he had a family emergency and had to take a few days off. His boss was gracious enough to give him a week off. I felt like it wasn't right for his boss to be lied to as well, so I wrote him an email that detailed the truth, and I attached the proof of Aaron's chat with his gamer friend as well. It didn't take long for his boss to reply and tell me that he was grateful to me for telling him the truth and that he would take strict action against Aaron. With that, I was satisfied with my revenge. All that was left to do was to wait for Aaron and Grace to come back. They came back 3 days later, and by then they had faced the results of the revenge I had executed against them. I knew that because they stormed into the house and Grace yelled at me. "You jerk! What have you done?" "Welcome back, guys. How's Auntie Jane? I heard she was feeling a little cold on account of her being dead for the last week." "You're joking about my aunt's death. Do you know how insensitive you sound right now?" "Don't worry. I doubt she wouldn't appreciate that joke. I ran the joke by Jenna and she approved." "You've been speaking to Jenna?" "Yeah. I got concerned about Auntie Jane, and since neither of you were replying to me, I called to get an update. Imagine my surprise when I found out that you two lied to me about Aunt Jane's health and that you two didn't even go there." "So what? You just told everyone about things that happened behind our closed doors." "Do you know how many calls I've gotten? Calling me a disgusting person? Do you know how many family members have shunned me now? You and I both know that you are responsible for this. You were the one who convinced Aaron that he could do better than me, so you used your sister's death as an excuse to take him on a trip somewhere so he could meet someone. I was right, though. You're a monster. You've turned my family against me." "Sure, Grace. If blaming me is what will help you sleep better at night, then go ahead. And before I forget, here, Aaron, these are for you." "Divorce papers? You have got to be kidding me. You can't divorce me." Yes, I can. You willingly went on a trip with Grace so you could cheat on me. I don't want to be with someone like that." "No, I mean that I should be the one that hands you these papers. You cost me my job. I got fired because you couldn't keep your mouth shut." "I was only doing the right thing. I didn't think it was fair for your employer to be under the idea that you were experiencing a family emergency when in reality you were trying to cheat on me. That's just unfair and not a quality for a good employee to possess." "How dare you ruin our lives this way? What is wrong with you?" "You can't ask me that question. You need to ask yourself that question. What about me was so bad that you had to convince Aaron to cheat on me, Grace? And Aaron, what about our relationship? Did it upset you so much that you agreed to cheat on me? And what made the both of you think that it was okay to use a close family member's name as an excuse for you to do something so disgusting? You are no one to talk to or question us about our morality. I think I am allowed to do that when both of you tried your best to hurt me in the worst way possible. But you know what you didn't count on? Me being vindictive and petty. So go ahead and enjoy your new life. Aaron, Make sure you find a woman who'll be okay with being with a mama's boy who can't think without his mama's help. I've packed your things up. You can either leave or sleep on the couch. I don't want to spend another second looking at your face. You ruined my life and you have no remorse for it. You're a psychopath, says the cheater. Take your things and leave. To this day, I still don't understand how Aaron and Grace could think that I did them wrong when they were the ones who lied to me and used the name of a dead person to do it. But after that conversation, Aaron picked his things up in a huff and left. Grace sneered at me before she turned around and left too. Even though I wanted to change the locks to the house, I didn't want that to get in the way of the divorce, so I let it be. But Aaron didn't bother to reach out to me after that. The only way we communicated was through our lawyers. Other than the house, we had to divide the rest of our things. Aaron was not cooperative at all, and he fought for everything down to our snacks in the pantry. Yeah, Aaron thought it would be a better way to get back at me. I didn't mind it because I knew that it would hurt his pocket more than it would cause me mental anguish. But during the divorce, Jenna and I ended up talking a lot, and we got very close. So even though my marriage ended badly, I still got a friend out of the whole ordeal. She told me that the rest of her family was very shocked by Grace and Aaron's behavior. Turns out the whole family had various issues with Grace and Aaron, but only remained close out of obligation because they knew that if they ostracized either of them, Auntie Jane would also leave because she would not leave her sister's side. This was the final straw for them, and they decided to never keep in contact with Grace and Aaron. Some of them even reached out to me to check on how I was doing, and I ended up also making some really good connections through the process. After the divorce, though, I'm learning to finally live life freely. I no longer have to deal with the anxiety of having someone blatantly dislike me for stupid reasons, and I didn't have to pick up after a man-child. I know that the divorce ate through almost all of Aaron's savings only because I knew how much he had saved. Aaron had at best another month to find a job, and in today's economy, I wondered how he'd accomplish that. Not my problem, though, and for now, I want to enjoy my newfound freedom. Thank you so much for listening to my story.